Kylie, women in sport, how do we get more?
It's the biggest question we've been asked for years, isn't it? But do you know what? There's a few things we can do. For sure, we can get more women out there. Keep putting them on posters, keep putting them at leisure centres, anywhere where the clubs are training, where tournaments are. Just keep pushing it as much as possible. As many wheelchair rugby playing females as possible out there, and then other girls and women will see it and they'll be like, oh, I want to be like that. Do you know what I mean? Because you've always got to have a role model to look up to. And then also more tournaments like we're having here at the Women's Cup. And one day, like Shay said from Australia yesterday, if we can have like a Women's World Cup or something, one big event that all the women around the world can focus on, then that gives them something to train for and to stay for, whereas some women are a bit like, well, we'll come to one and then what, is there never going to be a tournament again, So if they've got something to really aim for and to keep doing, and to maybe even just putting in, other like all women's squads for different tournaments around the world. There's European tournaments that aren't necessarily nationality like related, as in, so you wouldn't put a national team there or whatever, but you'd put, I don't know, an all women's squad just to go and play club level rugby, things like that. It'll give the women something to look forward to.
You say put women on the posters, put women front and centre of wheelchair rugby. Is that happening now?
Yeah, it is, and it's happening in GB. We've got it on our posters when you go to our league weekends and our comps. Yes, there's Faye's on the posters and some of the other club women, and they are. So that is amazing to see. But I just think we could always do more posts, more social media, maybe some adverts if we get the opportunity. And like Shay said again from Australia, could you imagine if we could have like an all-women's rugby film made or something, another Murder Ball 2? Just keep pushing it the best we can. I know it all costs money in sport, and that's one of the hard things that we always have to tackle. But yeah, keep talking about it and keep pushing it.
Yeah, we had the sort of panel last night, and what wasn't discussed is the classification, which we're looking at with the Loughborough team at the moment. Is a half point enough? Do we go higher? What's your opinions on that?
So, do you know what? It's a topic that not a lot of people like to talk about. It is hard, and we do have to accept there are gender differences. Okay, in the sport, it's fact, it's science. Men are physically stronger, men are physically faster. When you look at the 100-metre sprinters, for instance, the men have a quicker time, don't they? Right? It's just what happens in sport. So if we can work out what a level playing field might be for future, whether that's a 0.5 increase for the team or whether that's a 1 point increase for the team, let's get that. And then if it's across the whole world and it's across all teams and every team has that opportunity, whatever we set it at, amazing. Do you know what I mean? Then it's a fair level playing field, and that's all we can do.
I mean, I've spoken to some women who are really anti the 1 point, even anti the half point. They say, we're as good as the men, we don't need those extra points. Where do you sit on that?
I disagree. I absolutely agree with the 1 point or half point, whatever they set it at. For me personally, I think 1 point might be really good for high point women and to get more high point women into the game. I think a 0.5 is great for lowies. I think, I don't really need much more than that. But I think we kind of need to set it, agree, get the testing, do all the research and get it set. But I do think it would make a difference for high point females to really break into the game, because at the end of the day, we may think in our brains we're tough, we're strong, and we are. We all are, okay? There's a lot of tough females out there, but they will never be as fast and physically strong as the men.
If we want more women in sport, then we have to do something, because it's not working at the moment, is it?
No, it's not. I don't believe there's enough. It's very frustrating that it's taken this long to get an all-women's tournament. I've been playing nearly 17 years at club level, 13 years for GB, and Erica, who's been around a lot longer than me from Canada, hasn't seen this. None of us have, and it's frustrating that it's 2023 and this is only just happening. So things do need to change. The game needs to move forward, and we need to find these new solutions to keep it growing and to keep women in the sport, 100%. Yeah, exactly. This is what's so hard, because there are women that are very different. There are, different temperaments, different personalities always. And the women that do struggle with the testosterone and the strength and the aggression flying around sometimes just need a little bit more persuasion and encouragement. So for me, again, having maybe in the league like a women's team where they could play, having it in across Europe, where we could go to an Amsterdam tournament or a German tournament, even maybe club level. We just organise it ourselves. Maybe it's something us as females in the UK need to take on board and to take it on ourselves. Yeah, exactly. You know, so maybe we need to take ownership of some of it, and to move it forward if this is where we want the game to go. So yeah, and I think, you know what, everybody, wheelchair rugby is so inclusive. We know it is. So many disabilities, females, males, everybody, children. We now have youth, don't we? We now have youth program. Like, you know, it's so inclusive. So many people can play. And if we want to keep growing the sport and keep it going in that direction, not only do the NGBs have to do it, not only do, you know, UK Sport have to help, Sport England, but also we've got to do it too. So maybe that's the way we need to go. And maybe as, you know, playing for a long time, maybe I need to take some responsibility as well and start getting the girls involved. I'm always trying to get around the world and be like, come on, why aren't you playing? Why aren't you doing this? And you know, a lot of the time it is because I'm nervous, I'm scared to take a hit off the guy. They're a lot of the things I get. So maybe I need to take some responsibility and be like, right, well, let's get some women's teams out there, even at club level. Let's go and do it and have some fun. And this is what I say to them when they tell me that they're a bit scared and they're a bit nervous. I say, I promise you, get in a chair, go to a club, find a club and just get in a chair. Try one session. That's all you've got to do. And you either get girls that stick at it and love it, or they go, oh, no, that's not for me. You know, and you're always going to have different personalities. Like even in able-bodied sport, you know, you get women that love sport and you get women that don't. So it is a challenge. And then adding the disabilities into that as well, it's even more of a challenge, right? And also you've got to think of the percentages as well. Like, so men have a lot more spinal injuries than women in the UK. It's a fact. So it's even more challenging. So to keep women in this sport is hard work, but it's something that we all want to do. So we've all got to club together to do it.
Final question, how do you deal with the testosterone, aggressive, horrible bloke? You personally, then I think about other people as well.
So for me, you know, I love it. I love playing with the guys. I absolutely love it. Harder the better. I've been a nightmare my whole life. You know, I played rugby before, I played football. I've got big cousins, I've got big uncles who've all been playing rugby. So for me, it's amazing. And I can take a lot of aggression, I can take being sworn at, I can take anything, right? But there are other personalities in this world that don't like that. And I think as a player, anybody, you have to accept that everybody's different. So everybody needs to be treated as an individual basis. And I think it's really important personally that even the guys can see that and be like, okay, I can speak to this person this way and this person this way. And I do think we need more people to have a bit more awareness.
That the environment of wheelchair rugby is quite different. So obviously, wheelchair rugby is like a full contact sport, and I played like junior basketball level, so there was some differences in terms of like, I guess, the aggression levels and just the way that people communicate with each other. But I just wanted to sort of go in and I wanted to give as good as I get. Sort of, you know, I don't want people to sort of hold back on me, and I actually use it to my advantage, because some of the big guys, they're like, oh, we don't want to hit her, but then I can get good positions on the court because they hold back. So I think I can actually use it to my advantage, which worked quite well. Like, there's so many intricacies within wheelchair rugby. It's actually so tactical. You might see the big hits and the big smashes, but what you don't see is the low pointers at the other end of the court getting taking out somebody who's much higher classification and function than them. And there's so much more to the sport, and everybody has a role, no matter sort of what your function on, your disability. You can make a big impact on the court, which is great. I think it's really good that Loughborough are looking into it, because I do think obviously there is a real physiological difference between men and women on the court, and I do think especially like higher point players, there is like a big difference between like a male and a female 3.5, but even some of the lower point players, you really see the difference in terms of function. So I think it's just good to explore the options, and I think it will also just bring awareness to sort of coaches and I guess the wider wheelchair rugby community about the differences physically between women and men, and actually there is a physical difference, so we need to be compared to ourselves and focus on our strengths and not compared to to sort of males in the same classification, because obviously we are going to be physically different.
The half-point reduction at the moment, and would you be pro the 1 point reduction?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very pro the half point. I think I always say this, like I wouldn't be able to have any opportunities within wheelchair rugby. I don't think if we didn't have the half point, just because you physically can't compete without that sort of additional support, I guess, an advantage. In terms of the 1 point, I guess it depends on what comes out from the research. I think it'll be quite interesting, because I think for some women it will really benefit them, and it would bring a lot more women, especially into like the higher level of the game. But they might decide that that half point is sufficient. But a 1 point would be great and be a real encouragement for women. I think it would really step up the level as well, and give women the ability to compete at a higher level. And the female players can compete, and we're very skilled, so I think it's about trying to give the opportunities for us to play rather than just taking a box, so to speak. So I think the environment and the atmosphere is so different. I think everyone is really, really supportive, and it just creates this sort of empowering atmosphere where you feel sort of confident in yourself, and everyone builds each other up. And I think sometimes when you're playing in a mixed gender sport, it becomes, I don't know how to say this. I think sometimes there's quite a lot of egos and different things, whereas I think we really are working together as a team. And I think people just seem to sort of, just the atmosphere is a lot more positive and supportive, and that doesn't mean that the standard of the game decreases. A lot of people think that you need to have a certain intensity, you need to be screaming and shouting and that sort of thing, but I think it's just proven that actually when you create a supportive and nurturing environment, you get the best out of everyone.
I mean, I've been watching the Women's Cup here, and there's no less intensity, there's no less skill. It's the same. It's fabulous to watch, the same as the mixes as well. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's been a real showcase here at the Women's Cup. I mean, particularly for us at GB so far, we've been really dominant. We have some amazing females within our team, and they can certainly challenge the men for sure, and show them how you got to do it.
Well, in one of the camps you guys played at Leicester, didn't you? Was it Leicester?
Yeah, Leicester Tigers.
And you beat them, and they were all men, weren't they?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that was like the best feeling. So myself and Imogen, we took out Tom, who's like a really big guy, and I think it just sort of proves, it's sometimes not all about the brute strength and the power. It's about the smarts and the tactics, and it was really good, because it was a really fierce and intense game. Like the intensity was still there, and we really went out. And I think it was just good to prove to ourselves, I think, because when we played against the men, obviously they're a lot more powerful and a lot more strong, but that helped us with our prep, because we knew when we came here that actually if we can play against these players, then we're going to be fine here. I guess from an outsider's perspective, if you don't really know the game so well, what you will see is like the really quick players sort of making hits and scoring all the tries. But I think if you watch closely, you'll see sort of the intricacies of, there's so much decision making about, if this player does this, then you've got to do this, and you're trying to take out these players, and you're really trying to, it is like chess, whatever they do, you're trying to adapt and counteract it. I think sometimes that gets sort of missed due to sort of the physicality of the sport, which is amazing as well. Like that's one of the the reasons that the sport is so great, but I think that plus sort of the tactical element is what makes it the sport that it is.
And yeah, the tactical side of it, but also the chess, you've got different pieces who can move in different ways. Now that's the same in wheelchair rugby. You've got different people who are, some are better at one thing and another thing, and that it's about trying to bring that balance together, isn't it? And I think the women do that better. Would you agree?
I think, I mean, like you say, it's everybody has like different strengths and weaknesses on court and different roles, and I think we've here at the women's with GB we've managed to just slot in quite well, because I think we know what our strengths are, we know what our weaknesses are. Obviously we're focusing to work on them, but we are pushing our strength as well, and rather than, it's not like who's trying to be the quickest or who's trying to score the most tries, it's actually trying to collectively work as a unit and have the most success.
Right. Last question is more about the sort of social side of it, being here in the Women's Cup, and how all you girls are bonding and getting on well. Tell us a little bit about that.
So it's been, the social side of the competition so far has been really great. I mean, I think something that stands out for me is like that we go, like in between games, like we go to each other's rooms, we have a cup of tea or coffee and we chat and you know, just sort of get together, and you don't really have that same sort of atmosphere or sort of get together when you're sort of playing in tournaments normally. So I think that's been really nice to sort of just get to know the girls off the court, and it's important because I think the more that we can sort of get to know each other, the better, and we're creating a strong bond, and it's good because then you become sort of more in sync on the court.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Hi Avi, what's it like being in an all-female cup and refereeing?
It's been amazing, it's such a good atmosphere, everyone's really happy, it's been a really good couple of days.
And would you like to see more all-women events?
It would be really good to have at least once a year kind of an all-female cup like this one.
What do you think the benefits are to the female referees and the female players having an all-women's event?
You get more experience on court for the players, the refs have more of an opportunity to have more games, it's just more fun for everyone.
What's it like not having men in the game?
A lot less testosterone on court, a lot less yelling from the players, but it's a good atmosphere.
So it's a more friendly, fun atmosphere?
It's a lot more friendly and fun, there's a lot more support on the court. Yeah.
Would you want to do one again?
I would love to have another Women's Cup again, be able to referee. I absolutely love it here in Paris, it's beautiful.
Have you been here before?
No, never been to Paris before.
Have you seen any of the sights other than the Eiffel Tower behind you?
I've been down to the Notre Dame, been round to the Louvre and seen the Arc de Triomphe.
Are you getting lots of experience by refereeing at this tournament as well?
It's been lots of experience here. There's a lot more refereeing with new refs again, new teams, new players with different skill levels. You get a lot of experience.
And how do you think we get more female referees and officials?
I think more women's events, more women's days, more women's cup, you get more people interested in the sport, a lot more getting it out there, you get a lot more interest.
And what would you say to people who've never thought of refereeing before? How would you try and entice them to come along and ref?
Give it a go, everyone is always lovely. Refereeing a game gives you the most joy in the world. Just give it a try and you'll fall in love with it.